Warning: Tongue and Geek contains heavy spoilers. If you haven't read, watched, or played the content being reviewed this episode, know that we will definitely spoil major plot points. Also, this show isn't for kids. We use words like and and it would take too much time and effort to edit them all out. Please don't tell our moms. Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to Tongue and Geek, where two more white guys on the internet give their unrequested opinions on popular culture. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Tyler.
And today we're talking about DC's graphic novel, Superman Smashes the Klan, written by Luen and art by Chifuyu Sasaki and Naoko Kawano of Gurihiru. That's actually the team behind the Dark Horse Avatar comics, and fun fact, I didn't know this until I looked it up today, Yang was named an ambassador for young people's literature by the Library of Congress in 2016.
Did not know that either.
Yeah. You have any other background you want to give for this comic?
Well, it depends on what kind of notes you have, because I kind of took basic notes. I'm assuming you took more involved notes.
Just for the background, I don't have much, if you want to take over.
I read a couple of little interviews with him about his sort of inspiration for the comic. Mm-hmm. And I guess we should kind of talk about what it's about before we get into, the depth of the story and...
Yeah, so sort of a little disclaimer here at the start of the show. Normally this show's pretty lighthearted, but we're going to be talking about some heavy themes of racial prejudice and violence that are in this comic. And I want to stress that as two white men, Tyler and I both have a lot of racial privileges. Our experiences and perspectives on these issues are sort of limited because of that, but we're both open to learning more about these issues. And we want to promote racial justice and equality as the best as we can. And always there's going to be spoilers in all of our reviews, so just keep that in mind. So Tyler, a little bit about the background on this.
Well, if you can't tell by the title of the comic, Superman Smashes the Klan, Superman goes up against essentially what is the Ku Klux Klan, but they're not called the Ku Klux Klan, but that's what they are. In the comic, they're called the Clan of the Fiery Cross, cross with a K, because, racist and their ostentatious titling.
Misspelling. Some hillbilly misspelled all the words in KKK a long time ago, and then they've been playing it off as if it was an actual intentional thing.
Kind of tells you all you need to know, really. Mm-hmm. What's interesting about it is that there's kind of the dichotomy that people sort of, if they don't really know too much history about the KKK, is that they think, it's racist white people who hate black people. Mm-hmm. But KKK, they hate everybody. Yeah. They hate African Americans, they hate Asian Americans, they hate Jewish people, they hate Catholics. You don't even necessarily have to be a different color for the KKK to hate you. They're that bigoted.
And that's relevant to this comic because the main characters, aside from Superman himself, they're sort of an ensemble cast. They're actually Asian American. It actually focuses a lot on Asian American discrimination, although there is some Black American discrimination in here as well that they address.
Yeah, and even a little bit of Jewish discrimination.
Yeah.
Asian American, particularly Chinese American. Mm-hmm. The author, he loosely based the family, it's mother, father, daughter, son, kind of on his family dynamic.
Yeah.
And they're kind of representative. This takes place in the 40s, by the way, in Metropolis.
Yeah, this is actually...
in the 40s.
It's based on an old radio serialization, isn't it?
Yeah, which is probably one of the little cooler factoids about it, that it's actually based on a radio play back in the day, which a radio play tackling something like this back in the day is kind of like, whoa.
In the 40s, in 1946, I think, came out. Clan of the Fiery Cross, it was called.
This Chinese-American family, they move from Chinatown and Metropolis to the suburbs of Metropolis once the father gets a seemingly lucrative job at a laboratory. And like I was saying, how the author sort of based the family dynamic kind of off of his, he kind of sort of hits different experiences and how some Asian American families sort of try to integrate themselves or not integrate themselves with American culture. The father is very much like, we're here, we're in America, we will act American, we will speak English, that's just going to help us. The mother is kind of has a hard time,
has a hard time adjusting. She's a lot more
adjusting and embracing that.
She's a lot more connected to her Chinese heritage than the father is. It seems like
she wants to continue to speak her native language, and the husband's like, English, please.
They even go by English names. It's really sad. The main girl, her name is, I think it's Lan Shi. Let me check.
I think it's Lin Shen.
Let's make sure I get that right before we.
I think they only reveal it at the end of the comic.
No, they say it early on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's Lan Shen. Yeah, but they refer to her as Roberta throughout the comic because they're all going by their English names.
And her brother goes by Tommy.
Which I don't know if we ever learn his native Chinese.
I don't think so. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Before we get too deep into the heavy themes of this and getting into the recap, I also want to comment on the whole 1940s aesthetic. It's great. Mm-hmm. It is great in this. Superman has his 40s cartoon, the Flasher Studios outfit with the black symbol, and it looks really cool. Background. Really love that costume. The opening scene is him beating up a Nazi, which is fun.
Yeah.
It starts off with Superman beating up a Nazi, so it's going to be good. And also, Superman doesn't have all of his powers yet. This is old school, leap over tall buildings, run fast as a speeding bullet. He's limited at this point, and that's a core point of the narrative, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of for an all-ages comic, because I think it's considered an all-ages comic.
Yep.
It tackles a lot of nuanced narrative points, and despite we'll get into the art later, because I kind of want to save the art and stuff for later, because it's such a high point. But the art has a more lighter, cartoony flair, but
like a manga meets Western comics look.
But despite that, it never clashes with the heavier elements of the story. It all somehow merges together in this kind of perfect concoction.
If anything, I feel like it works better because of its sort of lighter art style, because there's this sort of like you said, it's an all-ages book. The characters besides Superman that it focuses on are children. It focuses a lot on this family and just these children's lives. And I feel like that adds to the whole atmosphere of how tragic and horrifying this racism is, because you have what's seemingly this what at first glance is a light-hearted comic for kids, addressing issues of racial prejudice and violence and straight up murder in some cases, and all of the horrible things connected to it. So I feel like it's a perfect juxtaposition of the two.
To go back to the opening sort of panels, having Superman beat up a Nazi, I can't help but think that it's kind of an intentional sort of nod to sort of the jingoistic beginnings of some superhero comics, because superhero comics they got their first huge push in massive popularity during World War II. So you'd see, the first cover of Captain America, the very first thing you see is him punching Hitler in the face.
Yeah.
And Superman would fight the Nazis, Wonder Woman. There was a very rah-rah America feel to comics back in the 40s in the Golden Age.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that this comic, Superman Smashes the Klan, starts off with that kind of lighthearted isn't the right word, but kind of yeah, man, fuck up that Nazi, fuck Nazis. But
it shows a universally recognized evil before addressing the evils at home, which is brilliant.
The Nazi he's beating up in the beginning, it's a comic Nazi. He's in armor, jetpack, a big red swastika on his chest. It's a comic book version of bigotry. And then after the comic book version bigotry, you get into the more realistic down to earth is the wrong term, but
the stuff that's like more grounded in everyday life, like subtle racial slurs, the little quips that the racist neighbors make against like affirmative action, stuff like that. Like all of these, it's amazing how many kinds of racism this story addresses. Like
exactly,
there's so much. There's so much. They do like fake news narratives. They do like purity of blood narratives and everything like that. They touch on so many like forms that racism takes in like all the different ways it damages people's lives.
I mean, of course, there's the outright, spitting evil racism, but there's also passive racism. It really covers sort of every spectrum, and not in a way that feels like it's like, oh my gosh, like we get it. It's very well kind of interwoven into the story. Yeah.
Let's jump into the story a little bit. So it does open with Superman fighting that Nazi, but that's sort of just like a non sequitur opening moment. It does set up a plot point later because we find out that the suit the Nazi was wearing was powered by kryptonite. And quick side point, this is the first Superman story that I've read where kryptonite felt actually scary because of the way they like describe his inner narration whenever it's going on. He's like describing like the smell of rot and ash and dying worlds, and like he starts looking at his own hand and like he starts hallucinating that it's like green and alien like, and it starts like messing with his head. Like this is the first time I've seen kryptonite in a way that's like, oh man, this is what it's doing to him. It's not just like, oh no, my power's gone. It's like, oh man, it's killing him.
Yeah, it's a really fresh and interesting way to incorporate kryptonite into the narrative.
Yeah.
Because as iconic as it is to the character, like, sometimes it's hard for the writers to keep it fresh when they have to introduce something. And it's not only a physical threat to him, it's a mental threat to him.
Yeah. So, as we said, Superman fights the Nazi. We cut over to the kids, Roberta, Tommy, and the Lee family, their parents as well. Move into a new neighborhood. The dad, who I don't know if we ever get his first name, but Dr. Lee, he starts working at this health facility on some project that we don't get too much about until later in the story. And for a while, it's just these kids trying to fit into the neighborhood. They go to like this Unity House community center. Tommy starts playing baseball there, and they meet, which I thought it was great that the Unity Center was started by a rabbi, a priest, and a minister. I thought that was a great little joke that also ties in the whole multicultural message that the thing's going for. But they go there and they start playing baseball, and a lot of these kids at the Unity Center, they really like Tommy, but they're also talking about him in ways that are like, oh man, I didn't know a Chinese boy could play baseball like that, or oh man, I heard that Chinese people were all hard work. Like they're using that sort of like, oh, we're using positive stereotypes of people instead of negative ones, so it's not real racism then. And it's good.
It's ignorance. It's
yeah.
They don't, not to excuse it obviously, but it's innocent almost in a way because they don't know any better.
Well, it's these kids that are learning things from their parents, and like they think they're being nice in this way, but the book obviously goes out of its way to show how it's still wrong and how it's still harmful, especially to Roberta. She has a lot of trouble fitting in because she's seeing all these people basically just reducing her and her brother to a bunch of stereotypes, even if they're positive ones. And she's like, I can't fit. I'm not what you think I am. You can't treat me like this.
And the way their sort of the brother-sister dynamic works with that is, she's more introspective, to herself. She's more observant, and Tommy's more outgoing. And
yeah, Tommy kind of takes it on in some moments. He's like, yeah, I think he makes like he uses wonton. He calls him and his whole family wontons at one point.
Wontons, yeah.
Like, these wontons don't fry that easy, and his sister's like, seriously? Like, you can see Tommy trying so hard to try and fit in that he's even willing to take on these, like, racial jokes about himself. And it's like, really sad to see, like, these kids having to, like, adjust like this. But not all the kids like them, because one of the kids, Chuck, which is just the perfect name for a little racist boy.
Oh, Chuck.
He calls Tommy a slur because he was like the starting pitcher, and then Tommy shows up and he's a better pitcher. Tommy accidentally hits him with a ball because he was crowding the plate or something. I don't know baseball terms. And he starts making a bunch of slurs towards Tommy and gets kicked off the baseball team. And that starts this whole character arc for Chuck, where he's starting to... we'll get into his arc later, because he goes back home, and we find out that his uncle is a member of the Klan. And the Klan go to the Lee's house and like set a cross on fire in their yard to scare them off.
They do a cross burning.
A full-on cross burning, which what I really thought was also cool about this comic is the way that the characters keep bringing it up. Like, the white characters in particular keep bringing up, we never thought this could happen in Metropolis, in our town? How could this possibly happen? And it just, like, shows, like, how this kind of racism isn't, like, some backwoods hillbilly thing. It's everywhere, you know? It's deeply ingrained into American culture. So they do a cross burning, the police show, or actually, no, not even it's, one police officer, Inspector Henderson, who is a black police officer who was, like, not on duty, and, he and a bunch of other black men who he was out with, I think they were just driving around town or something, go to help the Lees. And you can actually see Dr. Lee, the father, thinks that they're being, like, trying to hurt them more or make things worse after the Klan run off. But it just shows, like, how that sort of, like, racism gets indoctrinated even into the other minorities, you know? Like, here's this Chinese-American family, and they're, like, in need of help, and the father doesn't want help from this black man just because he's been indoctrinated to believe, like, black people are dangerous. It's like so clever the way that they tie all this, like, the way that these sort of racist ideas aren't just in the white people, it's in all of these characters, and how, like, it's harmful to everyone. It's
kind of nuts how the author was able to inject all of this into 3 issues, even though they're oversized issues. They're all about 80 pages each.
Yeah. Like, every page.
For as unsubtle as most of it is, like, there's a lot more subtlety to it. Like you were saying, like, when the father was afraid of the police chief and his 2 friends, like, you can read it on the surface of, like, he just had his house threatened by some Klan members, so he's angry and he's, you know, on edge. But it's also, is that the undertone of, you know, is he acting like this because he's also prejudiced in his own way?
Yeah.
It's never made explicit on his end, but it could easily be read that way.
Yeah. To jump back to Superman real quick, because this is a Superman comic, we swear. It's not just a bunch of these kids running around this whole time.
But he very much shares the spotlight, though.
It is very much an ensemble cast. It is Superman and Roberta are sort of the dual protagonists here, with Roberta having her brother and Chuck as sort of, like, supporting characters for her. But Superman, ever since coming into Kryptonite, starts having visions of, like, old school green aliens, and, like, they keep telling him, like, we're your parents, Clark. You need to remember who you are and all this stuff. Sort of like a repressed memory arc. What's really interesting about Superman's arc is that it's so connected to this idea of otherness and difference that allows the sort of racist, like, all of the racism that's going on. It's so well connected to that racism message. Because Superman is, like, the original immigrant. Like, the original superhero immigrant.
Yeah, everybody kind of describes him as that, and his long-lasting appeal is that, like, you know, he's the embodiment of, like, the immigrant dream and the American dream, and I'm seeing him actually grapple with that in a more grounded way is really interesting.
Yeah, we see him dealing with, like, his repressed childhood memories of discovering his powers, like his laser vision and his flight and stuff, and how he was called like a demon and alien and different and other when people found out about it. And he like repressed those feelings. He repressed his powers by repressing those memories as well, just so he could fit in. Which is kind of what Dr. Lee is doing there too, like trying to make his family fit in by like giving them English names and telling them to always speak English. Like Superman is trying to hide his alien heritage in order to fit in with everybody else, and it's reducing him as a person. It's limiting what he can do and how much he can help people.
Yeah, it's that was one of my favorite moments in the comic is when we have his first flashback to childhood in Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of the kryptonite exposure, he, like you said, he starts like hallucinating his hand as like a green alien hand, and then he sees his parents as like the kind of stereotypical green alien, big eyes, antenna. There's thought bubbles or narration blocks where, you know, he's like, they look like, I'm getting ahead of myself. The flashback, he's with his friend Pete Ross, and they're reading old, pulp stories, and one of them's an alien story. And his friend passes him the alien story, and he's thinking to himself, like, when I saw that, it made me feel weird, like, for some reason, and I don't know why. Like, I just didn't like it. And, like, the cover of that pulp magazine is how he's hallucinating his parents in the present.
It's an alien shooting laser eyes down on a city, so it, like, makes... In the past, it makes him... It activates his laser vision because he's like, oh man, I recognize that I can do this too. But in like the present, looking back, he's seeing his parents as those aliens with like the green splotchy skin and everything.
It's a really good visual metaphor about how, you know, he sees, you know, himself as a monster.
And also the way that his his Earth parents, Ma and Pa Kent, sort of handle the whole situation. You know, like, you get very much the idea that, like, they just want to protect Clark. They're just trying to do what's best for him. But their actions lead him to repress all of these things about himself. Even though they're doing their best, like, we shouldn't tell him about we found him in that spaceship. We shouldn't tell him that. It'll ruin him, make him feel like an other, an outsider. He already feels like an outsider and an other, and he doesn't have, like, a connection to his heritage, who he is. And
which obviously ties into Roberta's story and her family story of, you know, not necessarily of actively trying to push away their heritage instead of embracing it because that's how they feel comfortable. And it's sort of like it's making yourself smaller so you're not seen, so you're not judged, so you're not feared. And I lost my train of thought. Damn it! I hate it when that happens.
It's okay. Let's.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that he's limiting himself, and there's this great little through line where, you know, he keeps seeing his parents and they're telling him, like, you gotta push through, like, you gotta see through, you gotta become your best self.
And not just for his sake, for others.
He's leaping tall buildings in a single bound, and he's running really fast, but he's not flying like he could, and stuff like that.
He's not flying, he's not using his X-ray vision. He's not doing all kinds of things that could help more people. When
him and Roberta sort of cross paths because of the story, like, you know, because he's Superman, he's like, he's saving people, he's got them under his arms and taking them to safety and like jumping real far. Roberta notices that when he lands, it's gentle, it's soft. He's defying gravity.
Yeah, which was a brilliant way to tie in the little personality quirk she has. So she's got like a upset stomach. She like barfs anytime she's like in a car ride or whatever, and she realizes that Superman's not just landing, he's like altering gravity whenever he lands. So like that was a great little way to like tie in like, oh, that's how she noticed it and nobody else did.
And she's the one ultimately that makes him realize that he's like, you know what, like my parents who I'm seeing and this little girl, like, she's right, you know, I'm holding myself back.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't, because she's like, I noticed that, like, you pull your punches and, like, you hold yourself back, and, like, she kind of relates that to her experience.
Yeah.
And
she's like, "Why didn't you fly up there, Superman? You could have saved all those people." He's like, "I can't fly," and she's like, "But you did, though."
Like, yeah, like, even though you saved us and nobody was hurt, like, somebody could have. Like, if you weren't holding back, like, it could have gone even better, and, you know...
And it's not like the hold back Superman, like, the whole, like, I have to make sure I don't break people's necks kind of holding back. It's like the holding back, like, I could save more people if I flew, or if I could see through walls and things like that. It's all of his other powers that are more useful for saving people. Specifically, there's a point where Tommy gets kidnapped by the Klan and thrown into the river, and he's got, like, a broken arm so he can't swim, and Superman can't find him, and he only manages to do so because he manages to, like unrepress his memories enough to where he can use his X-ray vision and see through the ground and water to Tommy, which is brilliant. Like, you could call that, like, oh, he's learning his powers as a plot device to whenever he needs them, but it's tied specifically to his arc of, like, just accepting who he is. So, like, it works perfectly.
It's a great little sort of alternative sort of origin story for Superman too. Like, which it's sort of like a backdoor origin story. Like, Superman has had so many origin stories in the comics.
Yeah,
like I can think of half a dozen off the top of my head, and like, even though like we don't get the whole extended prologue on Krypton and his parents putting him in the rocket ship and sending him away, like, this is still early in his career.
This is very much like Clark Kent's origin story and how Superman became, like, the full Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's through the help of a little Chinese American girl that he befriends and their family. And what's cool is that Superman isn't the only inspirational figure in Metropolis. It's sort of implied that Metropolis is more of a progressive city in America in this point in alternate DC history than most, even though it's still hiding this undercurrent of, you know, Klansmen. You know, they have a African-American police captain. Perry White, the head of the newspaper, like, is openly against bigotry in any way, shape, or form, and he wants to expose them to get him out of his city. Lois Lane, you know, she's the typical go-get-em, plucky, I'm gonna, you know, get the scoop no matter what kind of person.
Lois Lane is great in this story. She's so much like, I don't give a crap that you've got a knife to my throat. I want to get all of the answers I can out of you to figure out what's going on. And, like, it's great. There's a moment later in the story where Roberta and Jimmy Olsen are up against some Klansmen and they have to distract them for a while. And they use, like, the techniques that they learned from Lois, like, just questioning people into obnoxiously questioning people to distract them. And it works great because, like, you can see how much influence she's had on these two kids.
Yeah, it's a great way to make the supporting cast, besides Superman, feel important to the story. And also Jimmy Olsen, who's a kid in this. Just I think he's only like a year or two older than Roberta. Mm-hmm. It does a really good job of making the supporting cast feel like they're a worthwhile addition, which I appreciate because it's not often that they do. Well, I wouldn't say not often, but sometimes they fall to the wayside.
I think all the characters here really contribute to the story, and I think that's due in part to the fact that it's very much grounded in Roberta's story. You know, even though Superman is the one who usually solves most of the conflicts, like, Roberta's the one who's, like, uncovering what's actually going on.
Yeah, which makes her, like, equally inspired by Superman as well as Lois Lane.
Yeah.
There's this. I'm a sucker. I'm an absolute sucker for superheroes being cute and bonding with people. And there's this part after a certain conflict with the Klan where Superman gives Roberta his cape.
Yes.
And it's so cute. Just like she's wearing it and she uses it as a blanket to sleep.
Her mother turns it into a jacket, and it's wonderful.
Because on her way to her new home in the car, because she's queasy, she pukes on her favorite jacket. And they're like, oh, it's old and it's getting too tight anyway. You know, we'll get you a new one. And through getting Superman's cape, her mother's like, that's perfect. So she makes this badass, like, sort of baseball-esque jacket out of the cape with the big S on the back.
Everyone's dream is to have like a piece of clothing made from a superhero cape.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
It's basically Superman giving her his Letterman jacket.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh my god.
Speaking of kids being inspired by heroes, let's go back to Chuck for a second, because Chuck...
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's get back to Chuck.
He's the nephew of the head of the Klan, and he joins in the cross-burning, like, when the Lees first move into town. But he's slowly learning that his whole arc is learning that racism is bad, which could have been handled so poorly, like having an outwardly racist character suddenly realize the consequences of their actions and becoming a good person, but because the comic does so well with his arc, because first off, he's a child. Second, his entire racist ideology is born from his connection to his uncle, who we find out was like supporting him and his mother after their father died. So his reliance on this familial figure who held all of these racist beliefs is why he has any racist beliefs at all. And the big turning point for him where he starts to realize, oh, what I'm doing is wrong. First off, whenever he was at the cross burning, he was very clearly uncomfortable. Like, he didn't want to be there. There's a moment where, like, his uncle hands him a Molotov cocktail and says, throw it at the house. And he does, but you find out later that he intentionally missed. But the big turning moment for him is when Superman shows up. And this whole time we see Chuck in, like, Superman t-shirts. Like, Superman is his hero. And then Superman shows up when Chuck was about to hit Roberta with, like, a baseball bat. And he takes the blow, and the bat just, like, breaks on his chest. And, like, you can just see the horror in Chuck's eyes of, like, I just hit my hero. I just attacked my hero, who is also the strongest man on Earth. And
yeah, it's another little great level of irony that he's a Superman fanboy, and of course he doesn't know that Superman is the ultimate, other, essentially.
And then Superman, I love the line that Superman tells him. He says, if you might be able to help another person, you ought to at least try. And it goes so far to, like, humanizing, it undoes this whole racist mentality, because he's like, these are people that you should help. Because Roberta comes to him asking where Tommy is, whenever Tommy, like, fell in the river after he was kidnapped. And it just goes so far to, like, teach Chuck about, like, need to treat these people as people. They're not different from you, and they deserve your empathy and your care.
Because Chuck, you see the struggle in him. Like, he's still torn between being loyal to his uncle, because he's my uncle and he's taking care of my mom and me, and he's forced to, I wouldn't say forced, but, like, because of this experience with the cross burning and Superman coming to the rescue, like, he's starting to realize, like, these kids, they're just like me. They're just people. Like, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to be responsible for that. But he's also like, but my uncle,
His uncle
I can't disappoint my uncle.
His uncle does so much stuff to keep him in his pocket, too. He keeps referring to him as his good and loyal knight over and over and over. All of this stuff that, like, clearly is meant to endear Chuck to him is like, you are a good boy. You are a good moral boy. You can, like, there's so much familial manipulation from the uncle towards Chuck, that you can absolutely see why Chuck is struggling with this. Like, his uncle took in his mother and him, helped them during their hard times, and he's done, and, like, his uncle adores him. His uncle loves Chuck. He just hates everyone else that isn't white, and, like, that hatred is immoral. And Chuck has to realize that just because his uncle loves him doesn't make him a good person. Like, that's a hard lesson to learn. That, like, just because someone loves you and feel strongly for them, that they're family, that doesn't make them a good person. That's, like, one of the hardest things in any, like, in dealing with racism in general, is all of these people who are like, yeah, they hold these bad values, these bad beliefs, but they love me and they've done so much for me. It's like, yes, but they're still they're still holding this evil in their heart and doing terrible things.
Yeah. And that's why I can't praise the sort of wide net that the author casts with this, because there's so many different perspectives that he's trying to capture and trying to give justice to. Not to get like too personal, but Chuck's story I related to, not because I was a terrible racist little boy, but I grew up with racist, bigoted parents. And when you're around it as a young person, like, they're your parents, and their word is, it's your parents, their word is law, their word is God, So it's like, and when you grow up and you get to a point, hopefully when you grow up and get to a point where you're like, oh my God, like, my parents are racist.
Yeah.
Like, my parents have disgusting, terrible thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a soul-crushing feeling.
It really is.
And
what's brilliant about this comic is that with Chuck's whole journey is tied into the overarching message of this comic, which is that we can't keep focusing on our differing past. We have to focus on our shared tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Superman says at the end in the finale.
And that's like that's a paraphrase of what Superman says, and like that's showing how like this familial connection formed Chuck's racist ideas in the first place. Shows how like that focus on the past, on history, on heritage, on tradition, all of that is what allows this racism to continue instead of living in the present and acknowledging or hoping for a better future.
Superman's arc, as far as him also, feeling like an outsider like Roberta and her family, it's not just like, oh, I have powers, like, so I feel different. It takes it to its logical conclusion, because there's a brilliant little detail, like, that they weave in, where people think Superman's an American.
They think he's human and an American citizen. They think
he's a human American who just took some, like, magic elixir, or was, like, a government sort of, like, experiment that gave him his great powers.
Yeah, or he trained with mystics in the Himalayas. Like, all of these different theories are going around of how Superman got his powers. There's a great moment when Superman finally catches the Klan leader, where the Klan leader says, the only way you could ever have these powers is because you're a white man.
Yeah, like, it's because you're pure blood,
you are of the superior race. That's how you can be what you are. And it's like, it's so blood-curdling, because, like, Superman could deny it by acknowledging that he isn't an alien, or, like, that he isn't human, that he's an alien, and, like, he doesn't in that moment. In that moment, he just, like, goes quiet and takes the guy to jail. And it shows, like, the struggle that Superman's dealing with is, like, if people know that I'm not just a white human man, then they're going to think of me as a monster. Because now it's not, oh, I'm just the best human possible. It's like, I'm not human, I am other, which is so tied into this message about race, is this, like, idea of otherness, of being different, even though the real message is about shared humanity.
Yeah, and it's so poignant, and it kind of brings a tear to the eye, because, once Roberta kind of tells him, like, you could be your full self, you should be your full self. He runs to Ma and Pa Kent in Smallville, and he's like, whatever happens, like, just know that, I love you and I wouldn't change a thing, or something to that effect. And fast forward to kind of the finale, Chuck's uncle, he's there, and
before we get to the finale real quick, I want to talk about the head of the Klan.
Yeah, I was going to backtrack to that, but yeah, you go ahead and take over.
Chuck's uncle was the local head, but there was like a higher member. They have such stupid names.
Yeah, and it's so convoluted.
It's great. It's making fun of all the stupid names that the Klan has. But Chuck's uncle worked for a guy who was basically just in it for the money. This guy openly admits, like, you actually believe all of this racist crap that we spit out? This is literally just for us to get donations and fees and, like, expenditures from our members. The only point in all of this is to get money from people. It's used to control the masses. It's like all of this
for our own gain, for our own power.
It's showing how like all of this racism, all of this hatred, it's just a way for those who are in power to maintain power.
Keep us divided.
Yeah, it's a class struggle.
And the head, I mean, he's freaking evil in his own right, just not the same evil as the uncle. Like, he's still hateful and feels superior, but only insofar as, like, how much power he can, he looks down on everybody.
He looks down on everybody. It's not about race. Or actually, there is a moment where he mentions that, like, foreigners know their role. So there is still definitely, like...
there's still racism there, but...
His racism is, like, used to seeing people as useful. He sees them as tools to an end instead of people to hate and fear. And he, like, that's so absolutely what it is in the real world, is all of this, like, all of the people who are in power are using these narratives of heritage and true, pure blood and all of this stuff to control people into fighting each other instead of recognizing that the people who are in power are the ones that are messing with their lives.
Yeah, and a few characters, like, they say this is kind of a recurring bit of dialogue said by a few characters. It kind of goes into, like, the levels of racism that the story plays with. Like, I have nothing against, these people, and, the Klan, like, they're terrible criminals, but, what's so bad about, wanting just to be with, your people?
Yeah, Chuck's mom brings that up, and then Chuck repeats it later. And there's a great moment where Tommy calls him out on it, because Chuck's like, is it really all that bad, just only want to live with people who look like you? And Tommy's like, my family was attacked. My arm was broken. What is the difference between you and me? He uses a baseball metaphor, because, like, they're both wanting to be, like, pitchers on a baseball team, and he tells him, we're on the same team. Which is just, like, a brilliant metaphor of, like, I just wanted to be on the same team as you. Why are we not on the same team? And it like, completely undermines his idea of, like, whites should only be with whites. Because it's like, why? That's built on nothing. We're all human. Like, sure, we have cultural differences amongst us, but, like, that's so insignificant compared to our shared humanity.
Yeah, and Chuck has this sort of heart-rending moment where he's pretty much, tentative friends and on the side of Roberta and Tommy and everybody else. But he has this moment, this agonized moment where it's like, I just want to know that my uncle isn't evil.
Yeah, he just yells that out. He's like, I just want to know that my uncle isn't evil, that my family, the man who protected my family, who gave my mother and myself everything we need, tell me he's not evil. And, like, that's so heartbreaking to see, because that's what everybody who deals with, like, racist family members, racist loved ones is thinking. They want to justify their evil, and you just can't.
Yeah, that's the struggle. And, like, to get a bit personal, like, I kind of had that similar process too. It's like, I would think, like, I have far more problems with my family than just their bigotry.
Right.
But I would think, like, there's more to them than just that,
But there's always still that.
There's always still that, and sometimes there's even more.
Yeah.
And what's sad is Tommy learns that his uncle is evil.
Chuck.
Because Chuck. He learns that his uncle is evil, and that's kind of shattering, like, because the leader of the Klan, he's using kryptonite from the Nazis. It's explained. We don't need to go into too much detail about how he has.
He's building weapons. He's
building weapons to take out Superman.
Yeah.
And but because the uncle feels so strongly and is so dedicated to the Klan cause, he ends up murdering the leader. And
which is a great bit of ironic fate, is the fact that he's strangled to death by his own propaganda that he was using to control people.
Yeah. But our heroes, they think that, the conflict is over. There other stuff had happened. There was a bomb planted at the youth center that they had to stop, and they had to Superman had to rescue his friends from the Klan, taking people at the planet hostage. That all happened.
Yeah, that's a really powerful scene when you see the burning cross like burned into the Daily Planet.
The Daily Planet sign, yeah.
That was pretty dark.
Yeah, an all-ages comic that is heavy as shit, people.
It's tastefully done, but it gets heavy.
So all that happens, and the heroes think it's all over. They're at the baseball game, and but little do they know that Chuck's uncle, was let free from prison by a crooked racist Klan cop, and he killed the leader, and he stole the kryptonite weapons. So he shows up at the game, takes Roberta, holds her hostage, threatens her life, and is like telling the crowd, like, people of Metropolis, like, listen, this is our country, these people shouldn't be here, blah, 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 the typical rhetoric.
Yeah.
And then this is when Superman comes out, basically.
He reveals his full power in order to save Roberta. He uses his laser vision to, like, get her away from, we haven't even addressed Chuck's uncle's name. I think it's Matt. Whatever, he's a racist.
Yeah, it doesn't. Who cares about his name? He's Uncle Racist.
Uncle Racist. Superman shows up, uses his heat vision to get her away. He reveals to a whole crowd of people that, like, I'm not human. And what's brilliant about this is that it's not just accepted. Like, it could have been so corny where everybody's just like, oh, yeah, it's okay, Superman, we love you, Superman. But so many people in the crowd are just like, he's a monster, a demon, kill him, kill him.
Everything he was afraid of.
Yeah.
Pretty much is confirmed.
Except, and here's what's brilliant, except for the children, which are a metaphor for hope, and except for Lois, who is like, who grounds him in, like, his love for humanity. Like, they're the ones who don't have, like, any fear, any, like, worry about Superman having all these powers and not being human anymore.
Yep, it's a great, beautiful culmination of, like, all the themes that were being woven together and all the story that was being built up. It's a great culmination in sort of everybody's arc. And it doesn't pull any punches, but it also doesn't get so grim where it just kind of,
Uncle Racist tries to blow himself up at one point so that he can blow up, like, the whole stadium, and Superman takes him up into the sky, uses his, like, frost breath to deactivate the bomb and everything. Like, it doesn't pull any punches. There are there's threats of suicide and murder and all kinds of
bombings and
all kinds of stuff in this comic. For
children's lives are in danger pretty much constantly.
Constantly. Racists just ready to kill some Asian American children just for looking different.
And it's you mentioned the metaphor for hope, which the S, obviously, that's what it stands for.
Yeah.
That's what he learns from his birth parents, and
it's also great. It's great when he finally accepts himself that he gets to see his parents as they are, not as, like, the green aliens that are scary looking, but, like, just his actual, like, Kryptonian parents.
Yeah, that's so many great little moments in the comic. There's almost too many to say. And yeah, he's the Grand Scorpion. That's the uncle's title, by the way. The Grand Scorpion of the Klan. He freezes the bomb he was going to suicide himself with. Superman freezes the bomb, but he's got this kryptonite knife that he takes, and he slashes Superman's chest right through the S, sort of kind of, right through the symbol of hope.
Yeah, right as Superman was having his whole speech about, we have a shared tomorrow, you still have a chance to be a part of this, and he's like, I'd rather die.
But it's sort of saying, there's hope, and there's a better tomorrow, but it might not always come as clean as we hope.
Yeah.
That's sort of how I took the slash right through the S, There's still work to do. It's going to be a little ugly. It's,
What's great about this comic is that we get to see so many character arcs of children coming to realize like Chuck realizing the folly and the evil in his racist ideology and that his uncle isn't right, and Roberta finally accepting that she is both a Chinese American and just an American. Like that's a great point, is that like, yes, I'm Chinese American, but I'm also an American. I am an American. That doesn't make me less American. You are both your heritage and your present, like your past and your future. And having both of those doesn't make you less of either.
Yeah, even if the world is working, all of its terrible ways to try and knock that out of you.
And that's Superman's arc, too, is that he's realizing, I may be a Kryptonian, an alien, an immigrant to this world, but I'm still very much human. I am of that world and of this one. But with all of those positive messages and arcs and everything, it never gets to the point where it's like, I'll just hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Like, all of the Klan members, like the official Klan members, aside from Chuck, and Chuck never really gets, like, fully initiated in anyway, like, they never have redemption arcs. Like, they're all ingrained into this ideology so far that, like, they can't come out. And it shows that. There's a moment where one of them is, like, in a fire about to burn to death, and Inspector Henderson puts out the fire to save his life, and then the guy who was burning to death, who was begging for help, realizes that a black man saved his life, and immediately tries to kill Henderson.
Yeah, it's like, you soiled me by touching me.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, bro. Like,
dumbass racists. Like, he just saved your life. But, like, yeah, it doesn't pull any punches as, like, we can just fix these people. We can just show them the right way. It's like, no, some of these people are so dead set in their ways that they're beyond redemption. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try for a better tomorrow.
And that's kind of what Chuck represents, is like, he could have become his uncle.
Yeah.
But because, he still had his conscience as a child, and because, he was able to see Roberta and Tommy, just as people, like, because his conscience got in the way, and because he was able to humanize these people that his uncle wanted him to demonize so much, he was able to get pulled out of the fire. Because
his idea of what right is, Superman, showed him what was right. And then also he just realized that they're people as well. Like, Superman was the gate that opened it, but just being with Roberta and Tommy is what allowed him to realize that they're just kids like me. We're all just here trying to live happy lives.
And there's a great little coda to Roberta's arc where Lois comes to their house, and she gives her a pen to, like, give her a job as a Cub Scout reporter. Because Roberta and her share a lot of similarities. And Roberta loves it, but she's like, oh, the pen, it's so nice, it looks so expensive. And then at the end, after everything wraps up, she comes to the Daily Planet, and she's like, I love the pen, Miss Lane, but I can't accept it. It's too nice, it's too expensive. And Lois is like, no, nonsense, it's yours, you're the new Cub reporter. And she's like, the L doesn't stand for Lois Lane, it stands for Lan Shin Lee. So, and it's another little heartwarming,
it's so heartwarming, where she just accepts herself, and, like, she doesn't have to hide her heritage or anything anymore, and it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful moment.
Yep, and the final panel is front and center. You got Lan Shin and Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, and they're like the Daily Planet team, and then up above in the sky, flying over them, is Superman. And thus ends Superman Smashes the Klan. Can't recommend it enough.
A beautiful story. Love this.
Beautifully written, cleanly written, just really well paced, and let's get to the arts.
I will address, real quick, I do want to address a couple problems, or maybe just one problem that I have.
Okay.
And it's not even really a big problem, it's a small thing. The whole arc, not even really an arc, well, I guess it is. Her father, Dr. Lee, he kind of goes through this arc where he starts off trying to hide his family's heritage and make them speak English and use English names and everything, just to all of this to fit in. And he's working at this like health building, which actually turns out to be where they're like making the kryptonite weapons. He goes through a whole character arc where he realizes, oh, this isn't right, and I shouldn't be doing this, and I'm also like hurting my family by making them live this way, and what we're doing is wrong. And we don't really see it. Like, it all kind of happens off screen, because I mean, it's fine because, like, it's used to build up mystery of, like, what's actually going on, and if we knew that up front, then it wouldn't be as much of a mystery. But, like, he goes through a whole arc off screen, and then comes in, he's suddenly like, I quit my job, and we're all going to use our regular names and eat traditional breakfasts and stuff, and it's like, what happened here? So that's my only real problem, is that his arc is kind of backstage, and also, like, we kind of get a little bit of an exposition dump before the finale of just, like, Roberta finding all of his notes and being like, oh no, they're building kryptonite like, the kryptonite weapons thing really just kind of pop up at the end. Like, most of this story is Superman smashing the Klan before, like, anything really threatens him with, like, the kryptonite weapons or anything. So that's a very small nitpick, because it's just, like, they could have maybe, like, on a technical level, it could have been written better, but all of the other themes of this story are so well written and put together that it's such a small detail.
Yeah, I really don't have many issues with it. I guess I could kind of nitpick it in that, even though I like the way the finale wrapped up narratively, the whole kryptonite weapons thing felt the tiniest bit gotta make it comic booky because it's a comic book.
Yeah.
You know?
But it does open. It's
not too big of an issue. It's just kind of, here's the comic book stuff.
Yeah, it also does open with Superman fighting like an atomic robot Nazi, so like it sets it up in the beginning, and it kind of comes full circle. So it's okay. Like none of that is like egregious in any way. The art. You want to talk about the art?
The art. Because I've read it twice now. I had to I read it when it came out, and I had to reread it to do the podcast.
Yeah.
Just the more I was looking at it and reading it, just the more and more I fell in love with the art. It's just, I don't want to pronounce the team because they're a duo. I don't want to pronounce Gurihiru. That's how I figured it was pronounced.
Or Gurihiru, sorry, not Gurihiro. Gurihiru.
The Gurihiru.
We're a bunch of Southern boys who don't have no culture, so if we get some mispronunciations, we apologize.
This art is just right up my alley. It's wonderful. Like, it's so simple, but at the same time, it gets across so much character and detail. I'm no art critic. I don't know how to properly assess, illustration, but it's so clean looking. All of the layouts and the scaling and paneling and the motions that come across through body language and facial expression.
And the action. The action is so clear and clean to understand. There's never a moment where you're like, what's going on? Like, you can absolutely tell exactly what action is being conveyed.
It's so utterly delightful to look at. Like
I said,
look at this comic.
This is the same team behind the Avatar Dark Horse comics. They're great. They're just like same writer too. Yang's also the writer on those. They have that same sort of clean, clear action, and it's just so beautiful. It seemed like at first glance, it seems like, oh, this might be a little kiddish,
too cartoony.
Yeah, too cartoony, because it has like that sort of manga look. But like it captures both the sort of like endearing facial characterization that we're used to in like manga and anime and that sort of Eastern animation and art style, but also like the traditional comic book feel of like, here's big grand gestures of like Superman punching through a wall or flying over the city, or like it really gets the best of both worlds in there, because you can pick up all of the motion and all of the emotion that's in like every panel. Like everything comes off clear.
And it kind of gives me Ghibli vibes, Studio Ghibli vibes.
Very much so.
Just from the character design to its use of like color.
Yeah.
There's this sort of comforting aspect to the visuals of the comic.
Yeah.
That just really reel you in.
Yeah, which like I said,
flashbacks in Smallville have golden hues, and like Mornings in Metropolis have this like, sweet looking, just comforting like blue early morning sunrise sort of look to them. And when the story has to get dangerous, you feel the danger through how the art is conveyed. It's not just, a one note visual sort of journey.
Here's something we might want to talk about. A lot of problems with stories like these that are trying to tackle racism and such is that they sort of take on like the white savior narrative, where it's like, here a white man with good morals comes in and fixes everything, which this story could have been, because Superman, even though he's an alien, he does look like a white man. But I feel like this story in particular doesn't fit into that mold, specifically because they focus so much on Superman's alien heritage here, and how he's not human, and how he has to accept that. So even though he appears as a white man, like, this is absolutely a story about how Superman is an immigrant, how he's not a white man. He's different, he's other, just like everyone else, but also he's not different, he's not other, he's human, even though in technicality he's not, but he shares that same humanity with everybody else. But also because even though Superman solves most of the physical conflicts in this story, he doesn't solve necessarily the moral quandaries. That's Roberta. Roberta is the one who like pushes Superman to accept his history, his heritage, his power. She's the one who discovers all of the stuff about the kryptonite weapons and about like what the Klan's trying to do and who they're trying to hurt. She's the one who like calls in Superman to help a lot of the times. This is really Roberta's story of accepting herself and helping Superman accept himself. So,
yeah, it could very easily have been a Superman comes in and grandstands about how racism is bad.
Yeah. But
that's not what it is at all.
It's not. And I think a great moment that sort of encapsulates that, maybe sort of like that white savior narrative and kind of shuts it down, is Perry White of the Daily Planet puts out like basically a bounty for the Klan. He's like $1,000 reward for information about the Klan, and Inspector Henderson comes up to him and he's like, "You just scared them all off. You made my job harder. You made things worse." And he's absolutely right, because then the Klan shows up at the Daily Planet and kidnaps all three of them, him, White, and Lois. So, like, even though White wanted to do, like, the right thing, he's like, "I'm going to fix this problem," like, his actions got more people hurt and put more people in danger. So, I think that was a great moment where they kind of addressed, like, this could have been, like, a white savior narrative where a white man does the right thing and fixes everything for everyone, but it's like, no, we have to consider what our actions do. We can't just act on our outrage with these things. We have to actually consider what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, you have to talk to other people. You have to get different perspectives. You can't just you can't get outraged and then blunder forward with that outrage and expect, the outcome you want.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just one point I wanted to bring up, is that I don't think this falls into like a white savior narrative, especially with the focus on Superman and like his alien heritage and everything. Which I guess could be another problem, is comparing fantasy alien creatures to real world races. I guess that might be a problem, but honestly, it's done so tastefully in this comic that it's like the whole point is that Superman feels other, alien, different, but he's not. Like, the whole point is, like, he recognizes that, like, that difference means so very little in comparison to the things that he shares with humanity. With, like, his feeling, his emotion, his desire to be good and happy. Like, I feel like this story in particular handles those issues in a way that, like, is very tastefully done.
Yeah, I would agree, and I hope I don't put my foot in my mouth here, but I kind of had the thought when I was ruminating about doing the podcast today. I'm like, I think it tackles everything I think the comic tackles everything it's trying to do really well, but then, like, well, but Superman is, to use the term, he's white passing, and like, I don't want to get down the whole rabbit hole of, can a fictional alien from a fictional universe, like, be white like that? But you can argue, like, but Superman, like, he's white passing, like, it's not the same thing as being an Asian American or an African American. And
well, I think
it's not. But at the same time, like, the whole point, the genius thing of the story is that Superman is Kal-El. He is this powerful being, and he can't be that without inviting that skepticism, fear, and hatred.
He only gains his full power when he stops allowing himself to pass for a white man, which I think is brilliant. Like, once he reveals to him, like, accepts for himself and reveals to others, I am not just a white man, that's when he reaches his full power. Both in terms of, like, his moral power and his literal power, which is brilliant.
And that just goes to further highlight how, for an all-ages comic, it tackles so much nuance, which gets into the broader thing that I hate about, in the West, comics and animation and stuff for children, for families, I would say, is still so stigmatized as being dumbed down.
Yeah.
It's animated or it's a cartoon. What do you expect? It's like, I expect this, like.
We should absolutely hold the things that we show our children to a higher standard. Like, it should be better than the stuff that adults watch. Adults can watch trash because, like, they're a little more set in their ways. If you show kids trash, stuff that teaches them bad messages, bad morals in ways that are, like, heavy-handed or non-conventional, then, like, they're going to take those in, Like, we should hold children's entertainment and all ages entertainment to the highest standard, because it's carries the messages that will carry the future.
And kids aren't stupid,
No.
They're not. Like, they might not grasp all the nuance because they just don't have that lived experience yet, but they extrapolate and they understand things on a conscious level and a subconscious level. Like, even as a little kid, like, when you're a kid and you love media, like, everything's cool. Like, you like the crap as well as the stuff that that stands the test of time.
Yeah.
But, like, even back then, like, looking back, I remember, receiving positive messages from the cartoons that I would watch and, understanding it on a deeper level that, I couldn't articulate. Media tackling difficult subject matter for children, I think it's necessary because
absolutely
they can handle it. Like, I didn't know this would devolve into, like, a,
it's fine.
Stuff for kids doesn't need to be,
It's a topic we need to address because we'll get to this when we get to review. But a lot of the reviews I read were like, I didn't expect this story to be so kiddie. It's like, what story did you read?
Yeah.
Like, a child got thrown into the river after he was threatened to be tarred and feathered by a man. Like, what? What are you?
The Klan burns down a youth center.
Yeah,
and the only reason the kids weren't in the youth center as it was going to blow up is because Chuck. It's not because he learned he saw the bomb in his uncle's hand earlier and he put two and two together. He's like, hey guys, let's all go outside. Let's go see a movie. That's the only reason why the kids weren't in the building when it was going to blow.
Which, to backtrack to Chuck a little bit, that was brilliant, because that was still at a point where, like, he wasn't willing to accept that his uncle was evil, but he also wanted to do the right thing. So, like, he wouldn't just tell them, oh no, my uncle has planted a bomb here, or the Klan's coming. He was like, let's all go watch a movie. Like, he still wanted to protect people. He was trying to play both sides, which was a brilliant move in the comic to have that moment there.
And then Roberta's like, he's like, oh, it comes out eventually, like, he put a bomb in the youth center, and Roberta's like, he's like, but it's fine because everybody's out. She's like, did you forget about the
rabbi, the priest, and the minister?
The rabbi and the minister? Like,
yeah. He's like, shit, adults exist.
Ooh, take the L on that one, Chuck. Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, kids can handle difficult subject matter. That's how we fortify, and form our identities and beliefs and opinions. I hate to divulge too much because we've already been talking about it for so long, but still, every once in a while, you see adults, getting outraged about something that, oh, the kids, it'll scare them, or it's inappropriate, and it's like, being scared isn't a bad feeling.
Well, it is, but it's a necessary one.
Well, I don't mean bad as in, like, people treat children being scared as it's fear that a child shouldn't feel.
Yeah.
And it's like, in certain safe, fictionalized ways, fear is a perfectly valid and necessary emotional response.
It teaches children about the dangers of the world and the evils of it.
Yeah, I think like, this is like a perfect introduction comic for younger readers.
And
like
a perfect introduction to Superman as a character, and to the idea of like what we need to do to deal with racism. I think this is a great story for younger readers. It's a great story for all ages.
It's one of my favorite comics, like newer comics I've read recently.
Yeah. It might be my favorite Superman story, but I'm not a big Superman aficionado, so take that as you will.
Well, I mean, yeah, like we were just saying, it checks all the boxes. It's a great introduction to Superman. It's a great introduction to comics. It's a good entry point for kids. And I think for people that still hold that, Superman is boring opinion, like, throw them a copy of this. Like, if you're not, if he doesn't warm your heart, and if you're not invested in his inner struggle in this story, then I don't know.
You're dead inside. You're a hollow shell of a person.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you can't watch Superman give his cape to a scared little girl and not be like, oh, he's still boring. Fuck you. He's not. He's amazing.
Look at this guy being a role model. Why isn't he punching anybody? Why isn't he killing people? So boring.
And
why isn't he an alcoholic?
Why isn't he more brooding and dark? Yeah. Why isn't he dysfunctional to the point where he can't exist in society?
Why doesn't he have a CGI removed mustache? What?
No offense to grimdark comics. I also love myself some grimdark nonsense as well.
I like it.
I love the yin and the yang.
I'm a little more yin than yang, but I like them too if done tastefully. Yeah, we definitely need to do some like younger animation and comic reviews in the future as well. I think there's a lot to explore down that road because there's so many good cartoons out now too.
Oh, but totes.
But to stay on this track, do we have any last major thoughts, or should we just jump into review?
I'll segue us into review.
Okay.
I'm at the point in my life where I'm just kind of over everybody's opinions. as smug as that sounds, like, I'm just like, So, like, I don't know of any negative opinions about this comic. I know they're out there because of the subject matter. But
yeah.
From the exposure to the wider fandom that I've allowed myself to have, the comic is pretty much, for the most part, universally praised.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just that good. So, but
Yeah.
With that said,
yeah,
I'm sure you have some reviews lined up for us that we can.
Most of them are positive. This is from Goodreads, which overall score it gets a 4.55 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which is great. This is Adam Stone. I just took excerpts because people on Goodreads are a little more expansive with their criticisms than they are on Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is like 2 sentences that are kind of strung together with barely any grammar, whereas Goodreads people actually read, so they actually know how to write as well. Adam Stone says, if Superman spent more time fighting Nazis, Klan members, and venture capitalist politicians like Lex Luthor, I would read Superman comics on a regular basis. 5 out of 5 stars. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I can't disagree, although I love Lex. He's one of my favorite villains ever.
It's the point, is that he's such a perfectly despicable asshole.
Yeah. I really like that you picked this review out because it touches on a point that I wanted to touch on but completely left my brain. This also gets back to the roots of Superman being a fighter for social justice.
Yeah.
When he first came out in the late 30s, he was, if none of you as like we have an audience yet, he was created by 2 Jewish men.
None of you. And there's no one here. The void that we yell into.
But back in the day, like Superman, he would take down corrupt politicians or evil businessmen. He would, stop domestic violence. He was sort of kind of street level back in his very first, early days.
Yeah.
Before he became, the nigh invincible figure that he is now. So this comic kind of gets back to that.
Back to those roots of him helping the common man. The common person, I should say. Another one, Born First. This kind of ties to what you were saying. Born First says, the most impactful superhero story ever told. After being portrayed as bumbling, hateful rubes on a children's show, the Ku Klux Klan would never again command the same level of respect it has once enjoyed. The original story from the hit Superman radio series this comic was inspired by literally smashed the public image of the Ku Klux Klan to bits, stifling its imminent revival after World War II. 5 out of 5 stars. So I guess this is more praise for the original, but also, yeah, I can see this being like a very potent. I can imagine when this story first came out, just like the impact that it must have had. Yang
he gets into the history of it at the end of every issue. At the end of the 3rd issue, the final issue, he kind of talks about the origin of the radio show, and it's theorized that the success of the show kind of just kneecapped the rise of the Klan again, because it had kind of fallen out of favor and then was coming back. And the fact that a radio show in the 40s did that kind of blows my mind. Like, I mean, I haven't listened to it. I don't know how well it holds up. I'm sure it has some elements to it.
Never let it be said that entertainment doesn't hold power.
Yeah. But the fact that, like, it was a kids program that strived to tell kids, hey, this kind of thing is bad, all the way back then, like, is kind of like, holy crap, like, that's a nice little nugget of history,
Hell yeah, Superman. Hell yeah, Superman.
Hell yeah, Superman. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Come sit in my lap, Superman. Yeah. Come over here in my lap.
To quote Jason Steele, hell yeah. Let's see. This we've kind of already talked about this, but Ashley says, this was good and I liked it, but I didn't expect it to be so young skewing. It's definitely a middle grade book. Older teenagers and adults can read and enjoy it, but it's not really an all ages read. Aside from that, it was really well done. 4 out of 5 stars. What part of this, feels a little too kiddie to you? Was it the part where, again, a child was threatened to be tarred and feathered and then has his arm broken and thrown into a river? Or maybe it was the part where, I don't know, they put a burning cross into somebody's yard and then throw a Molotov cocktail at their house.
Was it all of the racial slurs?
Yeah, the multiple...
hated seeing Kitty.
Yeah, all those...
But I don't want to be too harsh on her. I mean, she gives it 4 out of 5.
She does. So, Ashley, reevaluate what you consider childish. I guess racial slurs are childish in their own way, because you have to have the brain power of like a 4-year-old in order to maintain that kind of ideology.
Yeah. And, I mean, again, if you just look at the art kind of tells you that it's going to be,
targeted for all ages.
But, don't want to go too hard on her. She liked it overall.
She liked it overall. Let's see. Let's get into an actual negative review. Sam Quixote says, "This isn't good writing. I mean, the story is so feeble. Family arrives in town. Bigots bully them a bit. Repeat for 200 plus pages, then have Superman flick them away. Where's the tension? Hardly anything really changes. A character or two learns a condescending lesson, racism bad, and meanwhile Yang treads water with dull set pieces as the Klan run about doing stupid things that have no effect on anything. Blowing up a school, burning a cross on the Daily Planet globe. It's such a dull, unimaginative read. 2 out of 5 stars.
I mean, I don't have anything to say to that. It just reads like a typical, contrarian, I'm going to take this down a peg because it's woke kind of...
To give them the... Here's the best... Here's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. They may have read this and been like, yeah, okay, the message is racism is bad. That's not a message we need anymore. And I'm sorry to tell you this, Sam, but it absolutely is. That is absolutely still a relevant message that needs to be taught to children and adults.
Yeah, do we need to get into the absolute fuckery that is race relations right now in America?
Specifically Asian American race relations. There have been... I looked into the statistics, because this came out, I think, last year, and since last year, over the past year, there's been thousands, over 4,000 now, reported anti-Asian American hate incidents in America, including verbal and physical harassment and violence and murder, mass shootings and stuff. I guess a little call to action we should maybe throw in here, just so we touch on some heavy stuff here. I kind of want to throw in some real world resources people can look at. If you want to find out more about what's going on and what you can do to help, you can go to stopaapihate.org. They have resources for safety tips for those experiencing or witnessing racial hate. Those resources are in multiple languages. They also have links to local AAPI organizations. That's Asian American and Pacific Islander, by the way, what AAPI stands for. They have links to local organizations across the U.S., they have a reporting form that helps them keep up to date on incidents and develop advocation policies and stuff. It's just a good resource for looking into what's going on, who to donate to. Some of the donations are to legal organizations that help fight against this stuff or get policies passed. Some of them are for individual fundraisers of the victims of families. So yeah, if you want to learn more about what's going on right now, because there's been a lot of bad stuff going on in the Asian American community over the past year. Yeah,
and that tragically makes the comic hyper relevant.
I was going to say, last comment that I wanted to share was from Chris, and it says, "It's sad that the racism depicted in this book set in 1946 feels so relevant to what's happening right now in 2020. 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, that's what it is. And, if you don't want to read a comic that has obvious racial and political overtones, that's your prerogative.
Comics have always had political overtones.
Always, yeah. So that's so many quote-unquote comic fans to get kind of gatekeepy. Sorry, I hate gatekeeping, but...
Everyone should hate gatekeeping. Gatekeeping sucks. Why would you want less people to like the thing you like?
I know, but I see so many comments now, because comics are, I don't know, I wouldn't say getting more, but like they're tackling more prescient topics culturally and politically, and you just hear and see, oh man, keep politics out of my comics. It's like, have you read comics? Like, what are you talking about? They are inherently political and always have been.
Yeah. One of the Hulk's friends died of AIDS in the 80s, I think. I think there is an actual plot line where that happened.
Yeah, I mean, they've tackled racism and drug addiction and all kinds of stuff since their origin. Like I was just saying, Superman is basically the first comic book superhero, and he was out there, busting corrupt businessmen and, helping victims of domestic violence.
As an immigrant.
Like...
The X-Men, literally a metaphor for racial prejudice.
A metaphor for any sort of other, really. Like, and I can't help but think, like, I don't want to paint everybody who has, like, just so many politics in my comics with the same kind of brush. To give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, I think some of it just comes from fans who, like, if they kind of grew up reading comics, the older stuff for them, that's what they grew up with, that's what they know, so it's just another story.
Yeah.
They might know and understand the political undertones that they have and overtones that they have, but because that's what they've known, or they just don't think about it in those terms.
Or they might expect it to be coded differently. Like, there's definitely changes in how we're coding the politics in comics now. It's a little less covert now. Like, we're a little more open about, hey, we don't think that you should... Here is the message that we're trying to push. We're not trying to hide it nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, and I also think because comics from like the 70s or the 80s or even all the way back in the Golden Age, like the politics in those, there's an arm's length, between that and the reader. I wasn't around for that, so it reads differently.
Yeah.
But this new comic, it's talking about stuff that's happening today. Icky. I don't want that. Keep politics out of my comics. And it's like, no, like, reframe your brain here with this kind of stuff. Like, it's always been there. It's no different. It's just...
I think a lot...
It's just updated.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have political fatigue, too, where we see it everywhere all the time on the news, on social media and such, that they think, it shouldn't be in my entertainment as well. But, yeah, it should. Because as much as we hate to have to deal with these problems, we still have to deal with them. They exist, they hurt people, yourself included, and we have to talk about them, and we have to take action on them.
Yeah, and if you find yourself reading something like a Superman Smashes the Klan, or, I don't know, what's another recent comic that's been political, the recent Captain America run, and the politics makes you angry...
They should.
Step back and think, why is the inclusion of current politics in this comic making me angry?
Yeah. If you're getting an emotional reaction out of a piece of entertainment, it has done its job.
Yeah. Like, if it's a negative reaction, if it's an angry negative reaction, evaluate why that is. Yeah. Think of where are you coming from, that, an all-ages comic about, prejudice and racism and hope for a better future makes you angry. Why is that making you angry?
Introspection. Introspection. We all need it.
Is that the last review?
There are others, but they kind of copy the same general ideas there. Real quick, Tyler hates grading things ever since he witnessed a horrific act of numeric cannibalism while counting to 10.
7, 8, 9. I'll never forget.
So I'm in charge of putting a number to these things, and I'm proud to give Superman Smashes the Klan Tongue and Geek's first ever 77 out of 78 Red Suns.
Why the arbitrary 77?
I feel like it's just more fun that way. I feel like the 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 grading scale's boring. So I just like to mix up our grading scale every time.
Gotcha.
And just that 1 point's taken off just because of the minor narrative flaws that I talked about earlier with like the dad goes through an arc off screen.
I don't think I explained my stance on gradings and ratings and all that.
You did, but go ahead.
Oh, well,
do it again.
I'll do it again because I like to hear myself talk. For a guy who's sick of everybody's opinions, I sure like to hear my own.
We're doing a podcast about our opinions. I hope people aren't sick of our opinions already. It's episode 3. If we've lost them by now, we're done.
I'm above ratings. No, but I don't like ratings. I just think they're kind of arbitrary. I just like talking about the meat of a thing and how I felt about the thing, what it made me feel, and just at the end, like, you understand, hey, he really liked it, or hey, he was mixed on it, or hey, he didn't like it. That's giving it 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 4 out of 10. That doesn't mean anything. So that's my stance on ratings.
Yeah, I completely understand, and I think that's a completely valid stance. But also, I play D&D, so I see numbers. And I see numbers on a board, and that's the only way I can comprehend. Like, who gives a fuck about my feelings? I need to know how many numbers I got.
Yeah, me and Isaac derping out of the latest Marvel movie. Tyler, that was cool. What did you think of it?
Yeah.
I really loved it, man. This and that and this. Isaac, but what is your numerical rating? Tell me.
What numerical value would you give to the time we've spent together this evening?
I don't care that you've spent 30 minutes telling me why you loved Iron Man 7.
Yeah.
Give me the number!
My favorite thing is also seeing, like, the freaking, usually with video games, like IGN and GameSpot and stuff, they'll go on, like, a whole rant in their video, like, reviews of stuff of, like, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't good, we don't like this, we don't like this, we don't like this, and then it'll be, like, 8 out of 10, because it's a Mario game, and we can't give them a lower rating. The only things we can actually rate low are like indie titles. They paid us good money to give them nothing below a 7.
Yeah, I don't read IGN, but I through osmosis I know that like their rating system is a meme. So
yeah. Oh my god! Did you see? This is a total tangent, and we should probably end the episode, but I'm going to go on the tangent here anyway. Did you see their bit from the Miles Morales Spider-Man game that got memed to hell?
I don't think I did.
Okay, they did a review. I don't know if it was IGN. It was one of them. They did a review of the Miles Morales Spider-Man game, and in one point, the reviewer says something along the lines of, "You can really feel all of the swagger of a black teen as you jump off this building."
No.
Yes.
No.
And it got memed to hell. It's like, yes, jumping off a building has all the swagger of a black teen. You too can have all the black swagger teen. Like, it's so messed up.
No.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's hilarious because like I remember like the reviews for the previous Spider-Man game, like so many log lines were like, you really feel like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And like, so with the Miles Morales game, you really feel like Black Spider-Man.
It's like, wow. That,
oh no, how did that get past editorial?
I don't know. Somebody had to write that down, somebody had to say it, somebody had to edit it, and somebody had to air it. So, like, a lot of people deserve to be fired for that one, but I think it's still up on YouTube on their official page, too. I don't think they've taken it down. I'll have to look it up.
Gracious.
But anyway, we're getting off track here. Any last thoughts on Superman Smashes the Klan?
No. Read it. It's good.
Oh, yeah.
To end the episode on a completely not even DC-related topic, I don't know if you've watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet, but Marvel has announced Captain America 4, so that has made me happy, especially considering the end of the show, which I won't spoil, obviously, because Isaac's a Philistine who hasn't watched it yet.
I'm one of those people who has so many different forms of media that he consumes, because I'm sort of a jack-of-all-trades nerd. I have so many things to consume at a time that, like, I cannot keep up with stuff. I watch and read and play everything months after they come out. It's a miracle I did WandaVision, to be honest. But I will get to Falcon and the Winter Soldier because I've heard nothing but good things about it since.
It's only 6 episodes. You can knock it out in 2 days.
Yeah.
And also, even though, man, I can't talk. Since you're kind of on a Superman side now, if you want any further Superman reading recommendations,
recommendation corner.
I was talking about you specifically, but for the audience.
All 0 members of our audience want to know what Tyler's recommendations for future reading.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. I like that.
Do it.
Ooh, makes me feel important.
New bit.
I'll keep it mostly non-canon, because that's just easily accessible.
Yeah.
The first one is Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman.
Of course.
It's just, that's a no-brainer for anybody who knows that title. It's not only considered one of, if not the best Superman stories, it's just considered one of the best superhero stories ever written.
What is the one where Superman walks across, America? You know which one I'm talking about?
It's across America?
Yeah, he, walks across America and just, helps people as he goes. He has, a spiritual journey or something.
There's Superman Birthright, which is what was going to be my next recommendation. He doesn't quite walk across America, but he's sort of before he becomes Superman Clark, sort of I'm going to travel the globe and help out where I can in humanitarian efforts kind of thing. Superman Birthright by Mark Waid. Check that out. And I won't keep this going too long.
We're way under our usual runtime.
Birthright is an origin story. It's another retelling, and just there's something about comic writers and Superman's origin story just attracts them, and none of them are really bad. I can read endless amounts of Superman origin stories. So Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, modern classic, fantastic. Superman Birthright by Mark Waid. And then another sort of origin story, which is non-canon, Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, the team who did Batman The Long Halloween. It's another sort of bucolic, pastoral, beautiful kind of Superman tale. And the subtitle for All Seasons, it obviously has a seasonal theme. And for something that takes place in the mainline DC continuity, the recent run by Peter Tomasi is wonderful. So
I think Yang actually did a Superman run aside from this one as well. Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to look into that again.
I gotta look up more of his bibliography because I've known of him, but I haven't read anything else outside of Smashes the Klan. Yeah. So more of his stuff is definitely going to be on my reading list.
He and Gurihiru also did the Avatar comics. Can't recommend those enough for anybody who's a fan of Avatar. I think Gurihiru also, we looked at their Instagram page earlier. They're doing Thor comic right now, Thor and Loki comic. It looks really fun. Yeah,
that's 2 issues in. I haven't read them yet, but
I think they did Gwenpool as well. Gurihiru, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, if you fall in love with the art style of Superman Smashes the Klan, that's translated over to Thor and Loki, and it looks just as charming. So I'm definitely going to be reading that soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, this has been Tongue in Geek, and as always, don't tell my mom.
Don't tell Isaac's mom.